Now, there's always speculation that around Meghan Markle and whether she'll return to the UK or not, and it's being suggested that she may not be returning to the UK anytime soon because she knows how unpopular she is among Brits.
Before royal headlines and palace gates, before the world learned her name, Meghan Markle lived another life. One that began not in London, but in the quiet streets of Chicago. It was there, long before the cameras and the controversy, that she met a man named Joe Giuliano. He wasn't a prince. He wasn't famous. He was simply the man who loved her first, and the man whose family would one day reject her completely. For decades, their story was buried, erased, sealed behind silence. But now, Joe Giuliano has finally spoken. And what he's revealed about Meghan, and about why his family turned her away, has left everyone stunned. He says it began like any love story. Small moments, unexpected laughter, and the kind of young hope that makes everything feel possible. Meghan was radiant, funny, captivating. She had a presence that drew you in. She could make a stranger feel seen, a family feel chosen. Joe fell hard. She spoke about her dreams, acting, writing, travel, purpose. She had an energy that felt larger than life, even in the simplest setting. She made you believe in her, Joe once told a friend. And when you believe in someone that deeply, you stop seeing the cracks. At first, his family adored her. The Giulianos were old-school Italian Americans, loyal, traditional, deeply protective of family reputation. To them, love wasn't about status. It was about commitment. They saw in Meghan a spark of modern ambition, a freshness that fascinated them. But as months turned to years, fascination gave way to concern. Something in her stories didn't add up. Dates didn't match. Timelines blurred. Small inconsistencies began to surface. Where she'd been, what she'd studied, who she really was before she met their son. At first, they brushed it off. Everyone exaggerates, they thought. Everyone wants to look a little better, sound a little grander. But to Joe's mother, a sharp-eyed woman who trusted instincts over appearances, the unease grew impossible to ignore. It was in her eyes, she would later whisper. They were bright but guarded, like she was always performing. By the time Joe proposed, his parents already sensed a divide forming. Meghan wanted a future filled with light, red carpets, recognition, movement. Joe wanted something quieter. Family dinners, Sunday traditions, children raised with roots. They married in a small ceremony in Las Vegas. No guests, no photographers, no announcements. To the world, it never happened. And maybe, in a way, that was the point. Because almost as soon as the vows were exchanged, something shifted. Meghan became restless. Hollywood was calling. She began traveling more, talking about opportunities and visibility. She was warm in public, distant in private. To Joe, it felt like living with someone whose reflection changed every day. She wasn't lying, he would say years later. She was just editing. But what truly fractured their relationship wasn't her ambition. It was the growing sense that she was building a life without room for anyone else. Joe's father tried to intervene. "A marriage isn't a spotlight," he told her one evening. "It's a candle, small, steady, shared." She smiled politely, thanked him, and never brought it up again. By the following spring, Meghan had stopped visiting Chicago altogether. Joe's family noticed she'd removed her wedding ring during public outings. Calls went unanswered. Then came the silence, long, unexplained absences and cryptic letters that said everything and nothing at once. Finally, Joe returned home one night, pale and broken, holding a folded paper in his hand. It was an annulment agreement. No explanations, no apologies, just signatures and conditions. His mother wept. His father folded the paper neatly, placed it in a drawer, and said only, "Then we speak of her no more." But the story didn't end there. In the months that followed, whispers began to circulate. Rumors of a pregnancy, of a decision made under pressure, of a child quietly given up or hidden from view. No records, no announcements. Only fragments, shared behind closed doors. Some said the Giulianos had helped cover it up to protect their reputation. Others claimed Meghan demanded silence in exchange for freedom. Whatever the truth, something broke in that house that year. Not just a marriage, but trust itself. Then, suddenly, the Giulianos were gone. Neighbors woke one morning to find their house empty, curtains drawn, mailbox overflowing. The moving truck had come before dawn, leaving behind only echoes. It was as if the entire family had vanished. No forwarding address, no explanations, just absence. For years, that's where the story froze, until one day, a small brown parcel arrived at the doorstep of a neighbor who once lived across from them. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with a single name, Lucia. No one knew who Lucia was. The Giulianos had no daughter by that name. No record, no baptism, nothing. The neighbor brought it to her parish priest, who reportedly turned pale when he saw it. He told her to destroy it, to burn it, and to never speak of it again. But word spread quietly. A child, a secret, a promise buried under silence. Across Chicago's Italian neighborhoods, people whispered that Joe and his family had fled to Italy under assumed names. Others believed they had gone to Canada, but beneath the speculation ran one chilling thread. The name Lucia kept appearing. Some thought she was Joe's child. Others believed she was Meghan's, born in secrecy, hidden to preserve an image. No proof ever surfaced, only shadows. Years passed. Meghan moved forward. University, acting, television, fame. Her life became a study in reinvention, every chapter cleaner, brighter, more defined than the last. To the public, she was the self-made woman, elegant, articulate, driven. But to those who remembered the Giulianos, she was the woman who once slipped away in silence and never looked back. And then, in the spring of 2024, the story stirred again. A journalist named Aaron Vale, researching missing inheritance claims in Italy, stumbled upon something odd, a cluster of sealed records under the name Giuliano. Most were mundane, property deeds, banking slips, but one signature stood out. J. Giuliano, the date, 1997, the location, Palermo. At first it meant nothing, but as Aaron dug deeper, more anomalies appeared. Documents with blurred dates, redacted names, and one photograph that changed everything. It showed a young woman walking near Lake Como, her hair tied back, her face turned toward the water. She wore sunglasses, but her profile, unmistakable, Meghan Markle. Beside her, almost out of frame, a man held the hand of a small girl. His face was hidden, but his posture, his stance, eerily similar to Joe Giuliano's from years before. The photo vanished within days of surfacing online. Every copy was pulled, every mention scrubbed from archives. But by then, the questions had returned, louder, sharper, impossible to contain. Who was the child? Why was the image erased? And how much of Meghan's past had been rewritten before the world ever knew her name? When Aaron tried to contact officials in Palermo, doors began closing. Emails bounced. Records that had existed for decades suddenly went missing. Even the notary who'd once handled a property under the Giuliano name refused to speak, citing royal confidentiality. The deeper Aaron dug, the more dangerous the silence became. He received anonymous messages warning him to stop. Then one night, an unmarked envelope appeared beneath his hotel door. Inside was a single note: "Truth is expensive. Know what you can afford." He left Italy the next morning, but in a taped interview months later, Joe Giuliano finally broke his own silence. Sitting in a dimly lit studio, his voice quiet but steady, he spoke not with anger, but with exhaustion. "Everyone asks why we turned her away," he said. "The truth is, we didn't. She turned away first." He described Meghan as extraordinary, intelligent, magnetic, and deeply driven. But he also described the moment his family realized she viewed love as a step, not a destination. "My mother used to say, some people build homes, some build ladders. Meghan built ladders." When asked if he still loved her, Joe paused. "Love doesn't vanish," he said softly, "but sometimes it gets rewritten." He denied the rumors of a child outright, said they were myths, distortions, stories born from pain. Yet when pressed about the bracelet engraved Lucia, his eyes shifted. "There are things," he murmured, "that were never meant for cameras. I'll leave it there." In that moment, the mystery deepened. Was Lucia symbolic, a memory, a secret name for a love lost? Or was she real, flesh and blood, hidden by choice? The truth remained suspended, neither confirmed nor denied. As Joe spoke, it became clear that what hurt him most wasn't the loss of his marriage, but the rewriting of history. How Meghan had erased their chapter completely. You spend years building something, and then the world believes it never existed, he said. It's like dying while still alive. He described watching Meghan rise to fame, suits, the humanitarian work, the royal wedding. "I didn't feel angry," he admitted. "I just kept wondering if she ever looked back, even for a second." But perhaps the most haunting part of his interview came at the end. When asked what his family would say to Meghan now, after all these years, Joe smiled faintly. "My father would tell her the same thing he told me that night in Las Vegas," he said. "The truth always remembers its way home." Whether Meghan ever heard those words again is unknown, but Joe's quiet revelation reopened questions the palace likely hoped would stay buried. Questions about who Meghan Markle was before she became a duchess, and what price she paid, or made others pay, for the life she built. Even now, fragments of that lost story linger: an empty house in Chicago, an unclaimed property deed in Palermo, a photograph erased from public archives, and a name carved into silver: Lucia. Perhaps the Giulianos did vanish to protect something, or someone. Perhaps they simply wanted peace, or perhaps their silence was the final act of love, protecting a secret that could never survive the light. In the end, Joe's words still echo. She wasn't evil, she was determined, and determination without roots can be dangerous. For all the speculation, the timelines, and the theories, maybe the truth is simpler, that Meghan Markle, like so many who rise, learned early that survival often demands reinvention, and that in reinventing herself, she left behind pieces of the people who once loved her most. Today, Joe lives quietly, far from cameras, his voice calm when her name is mentioned. "I wish her peace," he says, "but sometimes peace comes only when the past stops knocking." And somewhere, perhaps in a sunlit corner of Italy, a woman with familiar eyes might walk past a flower stall, unaware of how many lives her story once touched, how many hearts still carry her name in silence. Because some stories aren't forgotten, they're buried, waiting for the right voice to unearth them. And this, as Joe Giuliano says softly into the microphone before the camera fades to black, was ours. The interview faded to black, but what followed was anything but silence. Within hours of its release, the world erupted. Blogs, tabloids, and conspiracy threads dissected every syllable of Joe Giuliano's voice. His words were cautious, measured, yet they carried an undercurrent of truth that felt heavier than gossip. Something real was buried beneath decades of denial, and for the first time, it felt within reach. But Joe didn't appear again. The studio that filmed him, a small independent outfit in Toronto, shut down its website the next day. Its owner refused all calls, issuing only a vague statement. "We respect privacy." The interview was meant as closure, not scandal. Yet closure was the last thing anyone found. Because as internet sleuths replayed every frame, they noticed something most had missed the first time. On Joe's wrist, as he lifted a glass of water mid-sentence, was a silver bracelet. the same design as the one sent to the Chicago neighbor decades earlier. The same inscription, Lucia. From that moment, the hunt reignited. Investigators, journalists, and self-styled truth historians began retracing Meghan Markle's pre-Hollywood years, piecing together fragments of forgotten records. One thread led back to Northwestern University, where a registrar confirmed that a student named Rachel M. Markle briefly withdrew for personal reasons in the late 1990s, a detail curiously absent from all official biographies. The gap lasted almost a year. When she returned, she switched majors and began auditioning for local theater. No one seemed to know where she'd gone during that missing time. Meanwhile, whispers began to emerge from Palermo. A retired clerk who once managed civic registries claimed that in 1997, a foreign woman had visited the municipal office under urgent circumstances. She was described as refined, polite, and clearly educated, accompanied by an older man with an American accent. They requested confidentiality for a private matter involving a minor. The clerk remembered her saying one word repeatedly, Lucia. When shown a recent photograph of Meghan Markle, the old clerk reportedly hesitated, then nodded once. Yes, he said, that's her. But official channels were still silent. Italy's record laws are strict. Sealed files cannot be opened without court orders, and any request tied to royal interests is automatically restricted. For every answer found, two more questions appeared. By late 2024, Aaron Vale, the journalist who'd first uncovered the Palermo documents, decided to return. He described it as unfinished business. Friends warned him not to go. His previous trip had ended with threats, missing emails, and an envelope under his door. But something in Joe's final words, "The truth always remembers its way home," wouldn't let him rest. This time, Aaron traveled under a pseudonym, staying outside the city in a rented farmhouse near Cefalù. From there, he quietly visited archives, parishes, and abandoned properties tied to the Giuliano name. For weeks, he found nothing, until a caretaker at a crumbling estate on the outskirts of Palermo led him to a locked cellar. "This place belonged to an American family," the caretaker said. "They came for one summer, then never returned." Inside, the air was thick with dust and salt. Boxes lined the stone walls, invoices, newspapers, and a single faded suitcase. Inside the suitcase were photographs, blurred snapshots of a seaside villa, a young man smiling with an arm around a woman, and, in one image, a small child sitting between them, clutching a seashell. On the back of that photograph, written in blue ink, was one word, loose. Aaron took the photo and left quietly. When he tried to verify its authenticity, he found no film negatives, no matching metadata. It was analog, pre-digital, consistent with the late 1990s. Experts dated the paper, the ink, even the chemical residue. Everything matched the period. The child appeared to be around 3 years old. When news of the photo leaked, the world once again split in two. To some, it was proof of a hidden child, a daughter lost to secrecy. To others, it was another fabrication in the endless theater of royal myth-making. But one fact stood out: Joe Giuliano's silence. He refused all follow-ups, canceled appearances, and reportedly moved out of his Toronto home within days of the broadcast. Then came the document. In January 2025, a digitized record surfaced briefly on an Italian genealogy database before vanishing within hours. It listed a Lucia M.G., born in 1997 in Palermo. Mother, Rachel M. Markle. No father listed. The file was immediately scrubbed from the system, replaced by a data error notice, but not before users took screenshots. The handwriting, though faint, matched old samples of Meghan's signature from her early acting contracts. Official spokespeople for the Duchess of Sussex issued a swift statement calling the document fabricated, malicious, and false. Legal notices followed, but the denial came too late. The idea was out, an invisible daughter erased from history before the world even met her mother. Public reaction was intense. Some sympathized, suggesting that if true, Meghan had been forced by circumstance, youth, or pressure to make an impossible decision. Others accused her of cold calculation, of discarding her past to ascend into a new identity. But amid all the noise, one question kept echoing. Who was Lucia now? Rumors pointed everywhere. A young woman photographed in Naples who bore a striking resemblance. A volunteer worker in Portugal who refused interviews. Even whispers of adoption records sealed by private order in Switzerland. None were confirmed. Yet in every corner of speculation, one phrase kept returning. The truth always remembers its way home. Then, in a quiet twist, Joe Giuliano reappeared. Not on television this time, but in a handwritten letter published by a small Chicago newspaper, the Lakefront Post. Dated August 2025, it read simply, "There's been enough said, and too little understood. The past belongs where it began. In love, not judgment. What was lost was not taken. It was protected. Some memories live quietly for a reason. Please let them." It was signed, Joseph A. Giuliano. No mention of Meghan, no mention of Lucia. But the phrasing, "What was lost was not taken, it was protected," reignited every theory imaginable. Historians pointed to parallels, how other royal scandals had been buried beneath similar language, how protection often meant silence bought with power. Social media exploded with comparisons to 20th century aristocratic cover-ups, hidden heirs, and erased lineages. The British press tried to dismiss the story as American fantasy, but private investigators kept digging. One, a former BBC researcher, traced Joe's extended family records to southern Italy. He discovered a small coastal town, Mazzara del Vaio, where a local school's 2012 yearbook listed a student named Lucia G. Her photo? Brown eyes, soft curls, a half smile almost identical to Meghan's. When journalists arrived, the principal claimed no such record existed. The archives had been updated. By then, Aaron Vale had gone silent again. His last known message sent to a colleague read, "The story isn't about who she was. It's about what had to disappear for who she became." Days later, his rental farmhouse was found empty. His camera, laptop, and notes were gone. Only the photograph of the girl remained, taped to the inside of a window, sunlight fading the ink. Months passed, and interest began to cool. People moved on to fresher scandals, newer distractions. But beneath the surface, something persisted, a lingering unease, the sense that a chapter of history had been deliberately torn out. And yet, somewhere between the silence and the speculation, humanity returned to the story, not as gossip, but as tragedy. Because beneath all the headlines, one thing was clear. Two young people had once loved each other deeply. Joe and Meghan long before crowns and cameras, and whatever happened afterward, it left scars that never healed. Joe's words in that final interview lingered like a benediction and a warning. Determination without roots can be dangerous. Perhaps that was the true story, not of betrayal or secrecy, but of transformation so total that the past became unrecognizable even to those who'd lived it. Meghan had reinvented herself from a quiet, searching woman into a symbol, and symbols have no room for shadows. Some say that's the price of survival. Others call it loss. Still, sometimes at dusk, in the narrow streets of Palermo, locals whisper about a woman who visits the sea each summer, always alone, always leaving a single white rose at the edge of the water. No one knows her name. Some swear she speaks with an American accent. Others insist it's imagination, wishful thinking born from rumor. But if you stand close enough, they say, you can hear her whisper the same word again and again, carried softly by the wind. Lucia. And perhaps in that fleeting moment, the truth remembers its way home once more.